Okay, buddy?
We went in at 20 weeks to do our anatomy scan. We got the ultrasound done, and she let us know that Lincoln has ventriculomegaly. And she kind of played it off like, we just need to get another ultrasound. I'm sure he probably was just moving. It could have been a bad picture. And I got off that phone call feeling absolutely terrified. Physically, I felt incredible. It was such a good pregnancy, but we were very stressed out. Lots of testing, thinking like preparing ourselves mentally for, the worst case scenario with every single test, and then getting told, well, it's mild and we don't know what caused it, which we actually made us feel really hopeful for Lincoln's future. We thought, he might be developmentally delayed. We were told there was an 8% chance that he would have severe cognitive impairment amongst other issues. And we were okay with those odds. I mean, we felt pretty confident that maybe the ventriculomegaly was an isolated finding and, Lincoln would be just fine. And he was born and he was perfect. He seemed to be meeting all of his developmental milestones, maybe slightly behind, but nothing enough to raise any red flags. As Lincoln got older, we did notice that he was falling further behind and meeting his milestones quite significantly. He's been diagnosed with global developmental delay.
Mm-hmm. People could recognize he wasn't as strong in the core as maybe they'd like to see, as early as they'd like to see. Talking and babbling was another thing that was late.
Every now and then we would always say, "You're so big, Lincoln," and at one point he was saying, "Big."
Big.
So as that became more apparent to us, we did decide to pursue genetic testing, and we kind of saw that as like our final hurdle.
But with genetic testing, we knew that we were able to ask better questions, and we recognized that this was maybe one of our last real options to get real answers. And so in our head, we were pretty well prepared to hear a nope, like we already had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've already trained ourselves to accept that as an answer.
Yeah, like, okay, well, we'll just keep looking, or we'll keep loving him, and he's delayed, it's fine. But ultimately what it turned out, when you ask hard questions, you get hard answers.
I got the phone call on October 2nd of this year, 2023, and I spoke with a genetic counselor who read the report to me. And she said that we had gotten a positive result. The name of the condition was AP4M1, which is the gene that's affected hereditary spastic paraplegia. And another name that you'll hear it referenced as quite often is spastic paraplegia type 50 or SPG 50. She kind of wrapped up all of the symptoms that he had already been displaying. Very common characteristics are ventriculomegaly, microcephaly, global developmental delay, significant speech impairment.
And all things we witnessed firsthand.
And it was almost a relief to just have an answer and know that that's what was causing those abnormalities. And in my mind, I still was thinking, okay, but he's going to continue to improve. I didn't realize the complexity of the condition at that point. SPG 50 is an ultra rare disease, and there are less than 100 children affected by it worldwide. Our best resource has been the families who have gone through this with their children.
What we were able to learn early on is that it is simply a neuroprogressive disease. It leads to severely impaired mobility and eventually paraplegia.
He could be in a wheelchair as early as 10 years old. He'll continue to lose function of his hands and his arms, which will lead to quadriplegia by around the age of 20. And there are only a couple of individuals who have survived from SPG 50 into their 30s. Most children pass away from complications associated with the quadriplegia.
Potential even for seizures in over half the documented cases.
It was very hard to wrap my head around. I got up that morning bright and early, and I heard him per his usual. Every single morning, he gets out of his toddler bed very proudly, stomps down the hallway, you know, kind of does a little babbling, searching for us, and he's just so happy. But it was particularly hard that morning because I heard his little footsteps, and which really is just like the best sound ever, and held my arms out to embrace him, and he fell, and it just kind of hit me like a truck at that point.
It's painstakingly obvious that the disease has already impacted our son.
Yeah, I mean, he started walking almost a year ago, and he's been walking like a new walker the entire year. I mean, it's actually even gotten a little bit worse. He's got some tightness in his ankles, and he walks on his toes. He's uncoordinated, he falls often, but they didn't seem that big of a deal before the diagnosis because he was gonna get better.
Just a new walker, uncoordinated little kid.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like, you know, we kind of shrugged it off and, you know.
We kept working with him on it, but the reality is we recognize it's not that he's just a new walker.
I mean, now it's all I can fixate on. He has a fall, or he's uncoordinated, he bumps into things, and I just see those things in a whole new light now. Like, he's not gonna get better, he's gonna get worse. There's been a lot of headway, and a gene therapy was created, and 3 patients have received that so far, and it seems very promising as in clinical trials. And for that, we can't even begin to express how grateful we are that those families have.
Yeah, the work, the resources, the foundations, the lab groups, we sincerely thank you. Ultimately, we don't want Lincoln or any other kid to be left behind. We've decided to start a nonprofit organization.
Lincoln is, when you see him, he's just got like this huge happy smile, and he's just like, he's our bright light, he's our sunshine, he's our world. And even with such a tragic diagnosis, he has no idea, and he's just like a rambunctious toddler and just having the time of his life. He falls down, he gets back up. We want to shine awareness on SPG 50. We want to bring it to the forefront. We want people to know about it and know what it is. We want to help contribute what we can to continue to propel this research that's being done. Please, if you can make a donation, just want to do what we can to contribute and provide a better future for Lincoln and for those 100 other children in the world.
Make things a little bit better than what we found it.